Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Shankly Gates Podcast. I'm your host, Kieran, and this evening I'm joined by the other two members of the front three. So I'm from the left today. We've got Dave Brindle from the right, and we've got Dan Clubb playing down the middle today. You all right, gents?
Yeah, sounds.
Does that make me Salah?
I think it does, mate.
I'll take that.
I think we all would, to be honest.
I think Dan's got in the best boat because he's scored that trick yesterday.
Yeah, but I think it has to be down the middle. Vicky Lambert vibes, though, unfortunately. I think.
On that note, mate, I'll take Barini.
Anyway, guys, we've got a lot to talk about this week. Of course, great start to the weekend, was it? The Reds with a 5-0 win against Watford. And then, so we'll discuss that. And after that, massive week up ahead with trips to Madrid in the Champions League on Tuesday and Man United next Sunday. But lads, we'll start with Saturday, and I'll come to you first, Dan. I mean, you can't really have a complaint about a 5-0 win, can you? But do you think it was, how well we played in the game, or do you think it was just how bad Watford were?
I think you'd have to say it's a combination of both. I think we'd be lying if we all sat here and said, listen, Liverpool were just unstoppable, because Watford definitely let us, to a certain extent, play. They were caught in between two stalls, in my opinion. They didn't quite know whether to come at us and try and press us and go, or sit back and block. And in the end, they did half of both, and we just picked them off time and time again. And I think the second goal before half-time really killed their spirit. And I think it was important for us because we dominated that first half, and we deserved to be at least 2-0 up. And had we gone in at 1-0, we might have gone, listen, I'd have backed us to come out and done it anyway, but it wouldn't have been right. So that second one killed them. And I think if you look at the individual matchups across the park, just to point at Watford's sort of lack of quality in particular, like probably other than Sarr, not one of theirs had any joy. And the Danny Rose Salah thing was just unfair, really, wasn't it? So yeah, I think there's definitely an element of Watford being poor. Ranieri not quite having enough time to work on what he wants to do might have played a part. But listen, we were very good. So
yeah, exactly. Just to touch on that, I'll tell you what, Danny Rose has an half put on some weight there. I thought, my God, there's the last seen him. He's stretched out a bit. Anyway, Dave, were you surprised how the game went? Because obviously there was a lot of talk going to this game. It was a Saturday half-12 game after an international break. Watford have got a new manager bounce. So when you saw the way the game played out, were you surprised?
Not really, no, I wasn't. We spoke about it in the week about what it might look like. And, it's difficult to judge on how exactly they're going to set up. But we kind of had half an idea of how Ranieri wants his teams to play from his previous times at Leicester and Italy and Chelsea as well. And I think Dan alluded to it in midweek that he'd probably only had maybe 1 or 2 training sessions. I know Klopp said he'd only had 1 with most of his squad ahead of it. So I think that was a training session more than anything for Ranieri for the rest of the season. And it's a really difficult ask to go up against the Liverpool team that are unbeaten in 18, 19 games now in the Premier League. You're in serious relegation trouble. To go into a game like that with that game plan is tough, because it's something that, the way he wants his team to play, you need to be very compact and well trained and understand what is expected from you individually and as a part of a team. And you could just see that Watford, the players didn't really know what they were doing to an extent. And there was some talk after the match as well that did they really care enough? Did they have enough? And I don't know. There might be something to that as well, Kieran, because the manager was sacked 7 points in out of the season, not in the bottom 3. This is what Watford do, isn't it? So maybe the players are sort of like, why was he sacked? Like, we didn't want him to be sacked. You don't know, but it'll be very interesting to see how they get on the next couple of games and if Ranieri can steer the ship, because otherwise they'll be sacking another manager again very soon.
No, I know. You joke about it, but they could well do. I mean, they are going to come up against easier teams and, Liverpool. So, we'll wait and see on that. But, Dan, we already spoke about it. Come to the first goal and the mismatch between Salah and Danny Rose on that right-hand side. And that was all clear to see for the first goal, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. And I think it was clear to see before that he'd done him for pace and strength a couple of times. And I think as a defender, when your attacker's got you on both of them counts, you're in a lot of trouble. because he couldn't get tight because Salah just kept rolling him and he was too strong to handle. And he couldn't stand off him because Salah just knocks it past him and he's gone. So Danny Rose in a whole world of bother very early on. And like you say, it showed for the goal. But that pass is ridiculous. Absolutely. We all lauded Salah for his goal-scoring exploits this season, but that pass is a joke. And fair play to Mane. Like, I've been one of Mane's biggest critics this season because I think he's wasted chances. And had he wasted that one, it wouldn't really surprise me given what's gone before. But fair play, first-time finish, and 100 goals in the Premier League.
Oh no, yeah, there's a lot that hasn't been talked about. Obviously, the Salah goal will come to you later, the one talked about. But yeah, that pass has certainly gone under the radar. It's world class. It's right to his feet, and a wonderful finish. So yeah, Dave, as Dan said, 100 Premier League goals up for Sadio Mane. I know we discussed a few weeks ago about our favourite goals, and I don't think you were on the pod at that time.
Probably not.
Because I know you want to contribute one, so this might be an opportunity now. Just how important is he for us? And go back on that question, what is your favourite Mane goal?
I can't remember what I picked the first time, so I'll have to rack my brains.
The City one, I think.
Was it the City one? Yeah, I thought it was.
Yeah.
I think that was the one I picked. And I know I think both of you went for it as well, didn't we, before we went on? So I won't go into that because it's just phenomenal, that goal. But it's funny, Dan says there about like he's missed a lot of chances, and I think he missed one in the second half that was probably a bit easier. And I was like, that's Mane. And the people who I was watching the match with when he scored were like, I can't believe he's actually scored that. Like, we're used to seeing him miss a few chances. Even with those misses and that little bit of uncertainty that he's currently got in front of goal, he's still so important to this team. His movement, his work rate, his ability to stretch defenders and attack the fullbacks. He's just, in any other team without Salah and Firmino, he's probably the best player by a million miles. But obviously, he's a part of a front three that are all incredibly talented, and he's just another part of the machine, which is not a bad thing at all. I think even Salah is another part of the machine, apart from that bit of excellent play pulled out on Saturday. But yeah, I mean, on Mane, great to see him score. Great to see all three of them get on the score sheet as well in the same game. He's been a lot more greedy this season as well, which I quite like. That's usually been Salah, but he looks to be a bit more greedy, and I hope he scores a few more goals. Long may it continue.
Absolutely, mate. Yeah, I saw a stat there. Now the front three are all in Liverpool's all-time top 20 goal scorer list. So that just shows you how incredible they've been for us. Definitely. Unbelievable. Dan, the first half's going on. We're only 1-0 up. Was there a part? I know we were dominant in the game and we restricted Watford to 16% possession, I think it was. But at 1-0, were you thinking back to Brentford and Manchester City, where we've been in these games where we've not seen a game out, we've been in front, and we've not killed it off? Was there any worry at all that similar thing might happen, or we were just that dominant that you knew the second goal was going to come?
Yeah, it did definitely feel like the second goal was always going to come, but at the same time, you think if we don't get it, Watford can improve. They've hurt us before at Vicarage Road. Maybe there was a little bit of shell shock on their behalf and they haven't quite settled into the game yet. So there's always a chance. And at 1-0, anything can happen, can't it? Anything stupid could go on. We go down to 10 men, anything, literally anything. So I was begging us to get the second before half-time, to be honest with you, because that's what we deserved. We dominated the game, like you touched upon the possession. But even in terms of chances, it just felt like we were going to carve them open at any point. And doing so, like I say, just a few minutes before the break, and Keita nearly made it 3, even closer to half-time, was really important. Because, like I say, any confidence they would have gained from going in at half-time was just completely drained out of them with that second.
No, that's a good point, mate. Yeah, the time of the goal, yeah, they're going 2-0 up at that point. I think, as you say, just dejects them and takes them down another notch. So yeah, they make a good point there. But obviously, we need to speak about, we'll maybe group the goals together because they were fairly similar goals, weren't they? A hat-trick for Roberto Firmino, Dave. It was sort of a reminder of you remember the Dirk Kuyt one against Man United, the 3 short tackles. You probably expect that from a usual number 9, but it's good to see Bobby getting into those positions. Especially, I thought his second goal, the way he anticipates the ball coming off Ben Foster, for me, I thought that was magnificent.
Yeah, I mean, he gets obviously a lot of plaudits for his work coming into the midfield and allowing more space in behind for Salah and Mane, and obviously keeping the ball moving. But let's not forget he is a fantastic finisher of a football as well, and he's got such great ability. He's one of those players, whenever you see the ball fall to him in the box, you always think he's going to score. You've never got a doubt. With Firmino, you always think, yeah, that's in. And great to see him on the score sheet. I seen a tweet, I don't know who tweeted it before the match, and it was like, you always know within the first couple of minutes what Firmino's going to turn up. And thankfully, we knew that this Firmino was going to be a good one to turn up for us, and fully deserves his 3 goals. And it's a massive headache again now for Jurgen Klopp, because there was just a bit of a period there where you felt like Jota was sort of worming his way into that front 3 in place of Bobby. He comes now with a hat-trick, because obviously we had Jota with an injury in midweek on Portugal duty. And now it's like, it is our best front 3 again. I think it is with Firmino in there, if I'm honest, in total. But it's just a massive headache for Klopp, but one he'll definitely be appreciative of.
Absolutely, mate. I mean, we'll come to like team selection for the 2 games in the week, and that'll certainly be a talking point, because obviously with Jota getting a full rest, you'd expect him to feature in the future. But the sort of the elephant in the room that we've not discussed, and you get first go on it, Dan. Just 2 words: Mohamed Salah.
Yeah, it's the best looking elephant I've ever seen. Yeah, it's ridiculous, quite frankly. I haven't quite decided whether it's better than the one against City. I think calibre of opposition plays a big part in that, if I'm honest. But at the same time, we win the Watford game, don't we? So it has better memories. But yeah, it's outstanding. It's ridiculous, quite frankly. That little roll with the studs over the ball to get away from the 3 of them is just silly. Really is silly. But yeah, it's so difficult. Like, what is it? Probably 13, 14 days after the last one to try and go again on sort of praising it, because it's so similar and the quality's so, so high on both of the goals. It's really hard to like I say, run out of superlatives or not run out of superlatives for it, but it's outstanding. It's just outstanding. And the man is the best in the world right now. And I've said it previously, his contract negotiations, his form couldn't come at a better time for his contract negotiations, because right now he can demand whatever the hell he likes, really. And there's a good chance Liverpool have to and probably will pay it.
Yeah, you would think so, haven't you? The way he has been the last few weeks. I think, well, I can't imagine the outrage if he doesn't get the contract and get what he wants. The dejection will be, it's not something you want to think about. But I'll ask that question to you, Dave. Is Mo Salah the best in the world right now?
For me, yeah. For me, yes. And as you've both mentioned, it's not just his goal scoring; it's his ability to, obviously, pick out passes like he did for Mane, but it's his ability to just work as part of a team and just be, as Dan says, he's run out of superlatives. I actually think that I'm on the fence as well about whether it was better than the City goal or not, but I actually think that City goal plays a massive part in him scoring this goal. Because Craig Cathcart goes flying in to try and block him shooting on his right foot.
Yeah.
Do you know? And usually, we were watching it and we were sort of going, why would you not let Mo Salah shoot on his right foot? And then we were like, oh, hang on, yeah, that's because when he done it against City, he scored. So I don't know whether if he doesn't score that goal against City, Cathcart stays on his feet and forces him to score with his right. But I mean, he just sits him down, doesn't he? It's just silly. And then not even that, the touch he takes, he doesn't have to take another one to set himself. It's just right in the corner. I don't know anyone else in world football right now who can potentially do that, as consistently as Salah has so far this season. He's unquestionably the best in the world for me right now.
Yeah. I mean, it's certainly a topic we'll pick up in, the next few weeks, certainly with obviously the Ballon d'Or. Ballon d'Or should be coming at the end of the year. We'll certainly pick up that again. There's just a couple of individuals just wanted to talk about in that game, just very quickly, Dan. Obviously, there was a lot of injury news going into the game, and we were sort of struggling from midfield. So I just wanted to speak about Naby Keita, who, of course, I think it was his 4th game in 7 days when he did that game. So, a big testament to him that, he had the legs in him.
Yeah, and I was really impressed with him. Towards the end of the game, when we could kind of relax and just kind of enjoy the game a little bit more, although it was pretty good from start to finish, really. I started thinking about sort of who were really impressed in the game. There's obvious candidates like Salah, Mane, Firmino, but outside of that, And like you touched upon, with the injuries we had and with the sort of makeshift midfield we had to go with, because, let's be honest, other than maybe a League Cup game, no one's picking that midfield as a predicted 11, But I thought they were all really good. And I think Keita in particular impressed me. Perhaps that's because my sort of bar's so low for him, and I just want to see him play 90 minutes of football regularly, and that'd probably suffice, really. So he's done that, but I also think he was really impressive in both aspects of the game. When he had to defend, I thought he was quite, strong in the tackle, won a lot of possession back for us, and got us playing. So one of his better performances for us, actually, in perhaps a relatively straightforward away game. But having said that, really happy for him and really hopeful that could be the start of something.
No, absolutely, mate. Yeah, of course, the front three are going to all applaud it, but like you say, it's all that unnoticed hard work in the midfield, which sets the game up basically to dominate. I think you make a very good point. You had a very good game. The only other player I wanted to touch on, Nate, obviously didn't really have too much to do, but it was a talking point before the game. It was obviously Queven Kelleher coming in. Dave, you couldn't, if you're gonna ask him to play in a game to have not a lot to do, it would probably be that one. But he did have one save to make, and it was a fantastic save, wasn't it?
It was an excellent save, and that's always the sign of a top goalkeeper, is when he's got nothing to do for a full game, he can still pull a save out like that and keep his clean sheet. Good week for him, to be fair. Makes his debut for Ireland, comes in, gets a clean sheet against Watford. As you say, apart from that save, he probably could have sat on the bench the whole game. He had nothing to do. I mean, I think Watford had 2 attempts. I think that was like 60 minutes in. And the other one, of course, was the save. And their fans were celebrating when they had the shot on target that he just had to, it was just straight down his throat, wasn't it? So, fair play to him. And again, it's massive for us to have a goalkeeper as good as that in terms of backup behind Alisson. He also counts towards your homegrown quota of players that you need for the Champions League as well. So we can't ask for much more from someone to sit behind Alisson. My only fear is that does he outgrow that role and want to move on, and hopefully not. Sit on the bench forever, Kevin. Don't go anywhere, mate. But no, fair play to him. And just on Keita, like Dan was saying there, I think that's the most frustrating thing about Naby Keita, is like, that's how good he can be. He can perform well. But for me, it's when he goes into, like, if he plays against Atletico Madrid on Tuesday, where it's a bit bigger, it's like he sort of disappears a little bit and he doesn't want to know in the bigger games. That's the impression I get and the perception I've got of him. Sometimes he just doesn't fancy these bigger games. Watford away is perfect for him because it's like he's not bothered. But, it's frustrating, isn't it?
Yeah, no, definitely, mate. Obviously we'll move on to it now, because obviously we do have 2 absolutely massive games coming up this week. The first of which is Atletico Madrid on Tuesday. Dan, so looking at our Champions League so far, we are 2 wins from 2. We couldn't have asked for anything more. I just want you to get your feelings on this. Obviously, it's a massive game. How do you think? What do you think about our approach will be? Do you think he'll? Sorry, get me words out. Do you think he will go quite defensive in this one? You think he'll try and respect the opposition, especially how we went there a couple of years ago and got beat, or do you think he'll be going out there to try and win this and get 9 points on the board?
I've never known Klopp to go defensive in any game in the 6 years he's been here, to be honest with you. And I think he'd take a draw right now. So I completely understand your point. And I think half his mind will be there, to be honest with you, in terms of taking a draw. But we know how Simeone's going to play, don't we? Atletico Madrid have picked up recently. Their form's improved because they had a pretty sticky start of the season, actually. They struggled to find the formula because they had a decent influx of players over the summer and they had a squad that was just, they let Sal Niguez go out on loan. So that shows you how sort of packed their squad was. But they have got better. I still think they'll be the usual dogged defensive selves. I don't see it being an open fixture from their behalf whatsoever. But yeah, I expect us to go out there and try and win, because a win with the home games to come, especially against Porto, puts us through, doesn't it? So it's a difficult one to call from our point of view. I actually think there'll be rotation in this. I think this could be a similar sort of lineup to what we see in the AC Milan game at home. Maybe not quite as heavily rotated, but I do think this will see a fair amount. Alisson and Fabinho are probably shoo-ins to come in, having not played at all on the weekend. But I do think we'll see some surprises here.
Yeah, I'll come to the team selection in a bit. I just want obviously the same question to you, Dave. How do you think the approach will be? Do you think we'll sit back, or do you think having won 2 out of 2, not so much that it's a free hit because on paper it's probably our toughest game, but a draw is great, even a defeat, and we're still really ahead of where we want to be in this group, aren't we?
Yeah, I was going to say it's a little bit of a free hit, and it certainly would have been a free hit had they drew their last game. But obviously, if they beat us, they go top, and that's a little bit. I mean, it doesn't really matter to me whether we finish top or second because regardless of who you get, you're gonna face a big side, aren't you, in the next round? And you've got to be up for that challenge. So it doesn't really matter to me where we finish. To an extent, it is like sort of. I don't think we'll change and sit back and go, right, let's just nick a draw. Like that's not within our prerogative, is it, to do that? And Klopp certainly won't be thinking that. We've just got to be very careful of Atletico Madrid because we know exactly what Diego Simeone's Atletico looks like. They've stung us a couple of times. So just I think having Fabinho back will be vital to watch the counter attack. I think the way our fullbacks bomb on as well, we've got to be careful of that. Maybe a bit of rotation in there might be coming on because if we leave gaps there, that could be that's where they like to attack, isn't it? And get behind us. So, I don't expect much of a change, but in terms of team selection, I do.
Yeah, well, we'll come on to that. Just on that, obviously we play Atletico. I've not been impressed in the 2 games. They couldn't get past Porto at home, match they won, and it took them until the 98th minute to score a penalty winner against 10 men. In the AC were down to 10 for a long time, so they haven't put too much impressive games in, but they've got 4 points, and that's all that matters at the end of the day. But onto the team, obviously, Dan, we obviously speak about rotation. You would think that Alisson and Fabinho, are a shoo-in to come in, but if we take we'll start with the forward options. You've got obviously the front three are in magnificent form, but you also had Diogo Jota who didn't come on. He had 90 minutes rest there. Maybe that was a bit of a panic if we got in front if he still was carrying something from the international break. So who do you think Jurgen's front three is going to be for the Madrid game?
I think Jota comes into that front three, and I think he perhaps comes in for Sadio Mane, which is a little bit of a rogue shout, to be honest. But I just think there's got to be some sort of smart rotation at some point. And Firmino's obviously missed a fair amount of football prior to Saturday. Mane hasn't really. Mane went away with Senegal, played quite a big role there. You'd want to rest Salah as well at some point. Maybe if we get ahead in this game, we can drag him. But he's so good at the minute, you just can't, can you? And he's very rarely the one we do actually rest. We do see Mane sort of rotated and rested more often. So I think Jota comes in there and perhaps plays on the left, which doesn't necessarily suit him. But it's something we could probably work on in the build-up. So, yeah, it's a difficult one. But there has to be a change, in my opinion, somewhere. And that might be it.
Yeah, it's never easy, is it? It's certainly not a decision you want to have to make. It's one that Jurgen will have to make. What are your thoughts, Dave? Which of the front three are you going for? Or would you make a case possibly to play the 4 of them? Or is this not the game for that?
No, I don't think this is the game for that. You could potentially do it at Anfield against Atletico and for the rest of the group if you need Fabinho. It's probably the new version of the old Brexit midfield we used to talk about with Wijnaldum. But I'd probably play Milner, Henderson, and Fabinho in there just to give us some legs and a bit of know-how in the midfield, just to watch that counter attack, especially if you play Trent and Robbo right and left back who bomb on. They'll be a bit wiser to it. But in terms of the front three, I think Dan's right. It probably will be. Do you know what? He's probably scored at Attic and Klopp will probably rest him. That'll probably be Firmino who he ends up taking off because that's what he's like, innit? Salah strikes me as the type of like Suarez-ish player who just hates being off the pitch and just doesn't need resting. Yeah. But just the way that we're built up and the way that Klopp's system is built, you've got to rest that front. You can almost say now, you rest Mane in this game for Jota, you bring Mane back for Firmino, you bring Firmino back for Salah in the game after, and just give them all a game off. When Jota's in that front three, we're so much more fluid. He just drops in wherever. Whereas when the established front three, if you like, play, they all sort of stick to the positions. But when Jota plays, it's all over the place, and it's it's a bit of a headache for opposition managers. So he's a really good player to have, and certainly something that I think would work against Atletico when you're trying to break someone down. To have Jota in there who just pops up all over the front three and all that fluidity, I think is a good idea.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I think that'll be the key to try and break them down. We know what Atletico are going to do. They've done it for a number of years under Simeone, so obviously we'll be dictated by how the game goes. But hopefully, we get the job done. Just one point on that, obviously, and just link it back to the Watford game. Were we surprised that none of the front three were taken off as a rest? And that's an open question to anyone. Did we think? Obviously, 2 fullbacks went off, so they'll play. But were we surprised when we didn't bring Salah off?
It probably points to where Jota's at, as I said, more than anything else. He didn't train at all, really, when he was with Portugal. I think he trained on his own a couple of times. Came back, trained with the team, I think, Thursday, I want to say. So I'm not sure he was as ready as he'd like to have been. Like Dave touched upon, maybe there was an option there if the game wasn't going to plan for 20 minutes at the end. But obviously Klopp felt that if he could keep him on the bench for 90 minutes, he would. And that's how it panned out. In terms of, obviously, the other options like Origi and what have you, but that probably tells us where Klopp's head's at with him as well.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right. Your favorite man, Dan. Right. Anyways, we'll get a score prediction for Atletico. So I'll come to you, Dave. What are you feeling on this one? What's your head? What's your heart saying?
Heart says a draw. Heart says a score draw, 1-1. Quite low scoring, but me head says they'll probably nick it. I just think that we never ever qualify from the Champions League as easy as this is looking so far. We just don't do it. It's not in our nature. So I can see them beating us 2-1. To be honest, if I had to put money on it, I hope not. But I just don't. We don't do things easy.
So Dave goes for 2-1 to Atletico. Dan, surely you'll be more positive. I know you. You'll save the day.
I was hoping you've got like a leave video button for Dave there just to kick him straight out. No, listen, you know what? I take Dave's point entirely, and I was even shocked we made it look so comfortable at Porto because he's right. Qualifying out of Champions League group's been last night drama, year in, year out for us in recent years, and especially away in Europe, we really struggled time and time again. But yeah, I would bite your hand off right now for 1-1 against Atletico, and that's what I'm gonna. That's heart and head. I'd take both of them results, so I'm gonna go with that.
Yeah, I think that's where I am as well, Dan. I think 0-0, 1-1, solid point. Take us on to 7, be 1 win away from going through. So yeah, hopefully that's where we are. But I do think even if we do lose, it's not a disaster by any means. Players shouldn't be disheartened by it, and we still have plenty of opportunity to qualify from the group. But that's the first of 2 massive games this week, lads. So we'll throw it ahead to Sunday now. A game that you always look for when the fixtures come out. Manchester United away, Dave. So what are your thoughts on this one, mate? Do you look at the way Man United have been playing lately? Because I think everyone's saying they've been very poor lately. Does something like that, sort of like a derby game, come into it? Do you look at how they've been doing, or like a classic derby, does form just completely not matter in this one? Oh. Unmute yourself, Dave.
That's weird.
Yeah, I can't hear you, mate. No.
Very strange. Yeah, come to me.
All right,
first.
so we'll come to you, Dan. He's going to come back.
Come back. That's because he predicted us to get beat.
Do you know what? Yeah, you can't hear us. That's justice. That's what happens when you predict
coming on the Liverpool pod and predicting Liverpool to lose. No wonder he's got on mute. Shocking. But yeah,
so yeah, Dad, same question to you.
Yeah.
Go on, mate.
You say look forward to this game and kind of look out for the fixture. You're back, Dave. Can we hear you?
No, we can't hear you.
No.
We'll say you can hear us though. This is justice.
Yeah, we'll carry on.
We're predicting a defeat.
Yeah.
Go on, Dan.
Yeah, so I dread this game. I absolutely dread it because our record there, I mean, I know we won there last year without fans, but our record there, and I've been to a good few of them, is diabolical. Like, the wins are so few and far between, we can remember them vividly in our mind there. You know what I mean? That's how bad it is. So yeah, I hate going to Old Trafford. I can hear that cough.
Yeah, I hear the cough.
I hate going to Old Trafford.
I was trying to slyly test that without anyone getting onto it.
Just saying a minute ago, David, it's because you predicted for us to get beat. You've been muted.
StreamYards realised that I shouldn't be here.
Yeah, I hate it, absolutely hate it, just to finish the point. But having said all that, our form is far better than theirs. I think we're a far better side than they are. So yeah, but I always do. For the past 5 years, it's felt like that going there. I think we're a better team than them. I fancy us, etc., etc., etc. And we get there and we don't turn up all too often, in my opinion. Last year, without fans, was the best we've been there for a while in recent memory. So hopefully that's put a bit of a hoodoo to bed and we can go there with fans and actually turn up for once.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've had a comment from Michael who agrees with you. He says, "Me too. Dread this game.
Dread it. Hate it."
I agree with you. Certainly, the wins we've had, they are very memorable. We either are really poor or we win by loads.
Yeah.
That just seems how it would be. I still remember the time, the season we finished second. We got 3 penalties at Old Trafford and won 3-0. That's never take that one away from me. But
the Desena one, the Desena lob, was the one for me.
That's the
goal. That's class.
Fair enough. Dave, your thoughts on this, mate? Are you dreading it? You're looking forward to it? Where's your mind with this one?
There's a part of me that really wants to look forward to this because of the situation that's going on there, and they've just been battered and they're not looking good at all. And we're in great form. Is it 19, 18 games? I can't remember how many games we're unbeaten. But at the same time, when we go to Old Trafford, we show them far too much respect every single time we go there. Apart from last year, which I don't really count. I'll be honest, I don't really count it because there's no fans there. It was the 3 penalties was last time we won, wasn't it? 2014. It's too long to go to Old Trafford. And, do you know what I mean? In the spell
That's so long
that they've had, and they've been poor. And most Man United fans will admit that they've been really poor for that period. Yeah. We've been poor in stages, but for the past 5, 6, 7 years, probably 6, maybe 5 under Klopp, we've been brilliant. We should have beat them every year we've gotten there. Realistically, Solskjaer knows how to not beat us, but get a point out of us. And I put it down to Bayern Munich because a few years ago we played Bayern Munich, and if you remember, they drew 0-0 with us at the Allianz, and he just sat back. And we played United just after we played them, and he literally copied and pasted what they'd done against us and just sat back for the draw, and that was it. It was 0-0. Yeah. It's one of those games that, I mean, I was saying to you in the week, I've given me tickets up, but I love going for that little
bit of hope
potential, that we might just win there because there's nothing better. I was there for that 3-0 when the 3 pens. It was just ridiculous. I was sat not far from Brendan Rodgers' daughter, actually. That's how long ago it was. That's how long ago it was. I didn't meet her. I don't know her name. But there's just something about that game that I just hate. I just hate after, especially you get locked in after it and you just sit there, and if it's been 0-0 or you've got beat, you just want to go home. All signs point to us getting a really good result there and going out and beating them 3 or 4-0. They really do. And I know we want that every time we play them, but this time it really does look that way. They're talking now about, do they want to be ripping their team up and changing things a little bit? Solskjaer was alluding to after they got beat. So be interesting to see what they come out with. I'd expect them to be a lot more defensively solid playing us. I just hope we don't show them too much respect like we always do.
Yeah, well, I'm going to bring a comment here from Steve. Says form goes out the window and the game can be played on emotions a bit. So they can still be a threat, but we should still be able to go there and exploit their weaknesses. And I think that's the point. I mean, if you just take everything out of it, you take the history of the 2 clubs out of it, Dan, I mean, we are a better team than them, and we should be able to go there and prove that.
100%. And that's the key point to me in terms of their weaknesses. Our strengths at the minute, aside from Mohamed Salah, is just us in attack. And for me, their weaknesses are still at the back, and particularly from sort of defensive midfield onwards. If you watched that Leicester game yesterday, they were getting picked apart at will at times by Leicester. That could have been more. Fair play to David De Gea recently, I must admit, and I know this won't go down well on Liverpool pod, but he's been outstanding. But the fact a Liverpool fan has to say that about them would suggest that he's having to do a lot of work. He's keeping them in a lot of games, and I think yesterday was similar. So if they're heavily reliant on him, then that bodes well for what we're going to do to them, because all it takes is for him to have a sort of average game and we put a few past them, So, and in terms of, obviously, Harry Maguire's just back from injury. Not necessarily the best or quickest defender in world football when he is fit. And yesterday he looked particularly sluggish. So Salah going up against him, and I've seen a few people today criticising Luke Shaw again as well, which is interesting because I thought straight away that's Salah's side as well. So yeah, they've got weaknesses. The way they play the team, tactically, etc., etc. So I do believe it's time for us to go there with fans and do them like.
It'd be absolutely wonderful if that happened, wouldn't it? Just go there and pace in 3 or 4-0. And I just want to talk about Dave. Obviously, Man United received a lot of criticism, especially from Gary Neville this weekend. He picked out the fact that off the ball, they're simply not good enough. The balance of their team is just not right. They've got all the superstars up front, but do we think that's where this game could be won and lost? Not necessarily what we do with the ball, but what we're going to do off the ball, because there will be moments where obviously United will have the ball, and do we think that's going to be a key factor in this one?
It's about time Gary Neville started giving United a bit of stick in it on the telly, let's face it. No, I think you're right. I think that's one of our strong points is off the ball, in and out of possession. Really, when we've got possession, our movements up front can be deadly, and when we haven't got the ball, just keeping it tight. And obviously the pressing system, if you like, that they've got working out is just second to none, isn't it? So I get your point that they've got all these sort of superstars up front, and for me, I hope Ronaldo plays because he's looked awful. He's just a shell of the man he used to be, isn't he? And to be fair, he never really done anything against Liverpool in the past. For him to come back and all of a sudden be really terrifying, I don't know. I think they've got to hit some form at some point. We do have to have a little bit of like wariness about them. They're not a relegation level team, but there is some definite weaknesses that we can pick on, and maybe being off the ball is one of them. Maybe us just as I say, preventing them getting forward and picking them off and hitting them on the counter is one of them that we could get them. I think we've obviously got to be careful of. They'll do whatever the other team does and try and play in behind our fullbacks. Rashford, I think Trent probably still has nightmares about that year. He just made them look silly. So we've got to be careful of that, definitely. But I don't know. I think we've got plenty to beat them, whether they've got all their superstars on the pitch or not. I think we're a better team.
Yeah, well, I'd like to think so. Certainly, the table and the form shows it, but there'll only be one way to show it, and that's to go there and actually put a performance in. So, having said that, we're going to do a prediction for this now. Now, tread very carefully, Dave. This time, the gods are playing with your sound after that disgusting 2-1 defeat. So I'll start with Dan this time.
I'm gonna love it, if we get beat 2-1. I'm not. You know what I mean?
Kevin Keegan there.
I love it if they beat us. Love
it. I'll start with you this time, Dan. Man United away, mate. What are you thinking?
Just to say, I'm glad this is early in the season because this is by far the worst one I'll have to predict all year, unless we get to the Champions League final, which would be nice. God almighty. Yeah, okay. We're better than them, aren't we? 2-0 to us. 2-0 to us, yeah. Half comfortable.
2-0 Liverpool. Dave?
4-1 to Man... No, I'm only joking. I think we'll win 3-1. And I'm with Dan that it'll be quite comfortable. I think we'll be at least 2-0 up before they score. Yeah, I just... There's something in me that is still saying, no, it'll be a draw. It'll be 0-0. Do you know what I mean? But it can't be. It just can't be. It's got to be. We've got to win. And I think it'll be 3-1.
Yeah, I mean, looking at it, it's either a drab draw or we win by miles. So I'm going to go with the second option. I'm going to go with another 3-0, I think. Yeah,
it all depends on how Solskjaer sets up, which is kind of, we know what he's going to do. And it all depends on how we break them down. And I think in our current form, we will.
If we get an early goal, I think we say this in any game, an early goal, and we'll see what they're made of. Their fans get on their back and silence the crowd, and we'll go from there. But anyway, guys, it's an absolute pleasure once again to be with you. Dave, Dan, good to see you, and hope you have a good week, boys.
You too,
mate.
Cheers, mate. So we'll be back sometime next week with loads more games to review and look ahead to. So we'll see you then. Thanks for watching.